Yes, welcome everyone everywhere to another installment of the Elite Thinking Club. I'm Jules, Julien, and I'm joined tonight by my co-hosts Michael and Liz. You guys good?
Yeah, good,
always good.
Awesome. Right, and we're also joined by a guest tonight, Iyesis, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Iyesis, you okay? You all right?
Yes.
You look lovely and sunny over there. You know what I mean? Like glowing. Got it. God, we have to move, guys. We have to move. Yeah, we're gonna have to go.
I want to move to America.
Yeah.
I want to move to Texas.
Texas.
Good place.
You can wear cowboy hats there, innit, and not look weird. Well, I suppose you could do that.
I want to shoot guns.
Well, you can shoot guns anywhere in the South, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I think it's the most open one to shoot.
What, legally? Just like you can? Is it? Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, I want to open a gun range.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I believe everyone should at least know how to fire a gun, like the same way everyone should know how to self-defend. Not that you're going out there to attack people, but you're going out there to defend yourself should you need. It's not a hunting rifle, it's a defense weapon, if that makes sense. Do you get what I mean? It's
right.
Like, you know how it is. You know how it is. Yes, Nini, we see you. Love that. Welcome back. Cheryl, I see you as well. Right. Oh, Charlie, I see you as well. Right. Guys, just blabbered on there, but welcome, Iyesis. Welcome to the Elite Thinking Club. Everyone's like, right, get to the point.
I love when we have a guest.
Yeah. Right. I found Iyesis on TikTok, and she has highlighted so well and articulated so well how words have power. Michael, Liz, do you agree words have power?
Yes.
Yes. And
yes.
How do you see words as power? How do you understand that?
I see words as almost like spells. So you know where people often talk about like manifesting things, and you know when they sort of say when we're at school, do your spellings, spells,
right?
Words. So I kind of feel like our words and our thoughts are important, because we're kind of, when we're saying something, we're thinking it and we're kind of putting it out there and we're processing it into our lives. So I think that they're very important. They're like spells.
So you believe, Liz, words have power like spells?
Yeah.
Awesome. Michael, do you believe, obviously you said yes, but how do you see words have power?
I only see words with power with intent. So it depends how you say it.
Yes, Michael, go on. A little bit more. Elaborate.
Yeah, so I personally don't believe there's anything else other than the actual words you're saying, other than how you say it to people.
Yeah.
So if you're angry with someone and you say, go away,
right,
then the intent is you want them to go away. But if you say it in a different tone, go away, then that kind of gets them to stay.
Okay. All right. So Liz,
I don't think there's any spells behind it.
Okay, so Liz, you believe that words have power as the way that it's written, as the way the actual word itself. Like if I said to you, good morning, it could potentially mean good morning, like morning, I'm mourning a death of something. Or I could say to you the words grand rising, which obviously means great rising, heightening, a lightening. Do you know what I mean? So you can change what you say to have an impact. Is that what you believe?
Yeah,
but Michael, you believe that how I say something, the intention I say behind it is the impact of the power of the word.
Yeah, so using your morning thing, if I go morning, that obviously means I'm not very happy. Morning.
Go back to bed.
I love that. Okay, so the reason that, guys, we have Iyesis here is because Iyesis highlighted how words have power, and she has become very, very how can I explain it, Iyesis? It's like not the word obsessed. That's a quite strong word to use, but is it borderline obsession?
I mean, I think every great person in history, whether it be an entertainer or a basketball player or a scientist, they're all obsessed. So I wear that title with pride.
Good. Okay. Yes, because I believe that you are a little. I didn't want to say it unless you said it, but I see a little bit of obsession, because no one who just sort of like is interested in it goes into the depths of it. For example, I like pancakes. I know how to make pancakes because I was interested in it, but I'm not going into the depths of like, oh, I'm going to make extra. Like, I don't make pancakes daily. It doesn't like not consume my attention. Like, so should I say Elite Thinking Club or People or TikTok? Definitely. I'm not saying I'm obsessed with TikTok, but it does consume my attention. Why is it so important to you that you are studying etymology, Iyesis?
So how it began was trying to figure out my integrity, trying to figure out who I was as an individual, because I mentioned to you before, but I grew up in a cult. And when you grow up in a religious organization that dictates who you are, trying to find out who you are at 30, 31, 32, 33 is like, whoa, like I'm going crazy. So I got into a space where I was reading a lot of books. And one of the books that touched me deeply was The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And I realized that I always thought in my head that I was going to die, or like if I didn't do my life perfectly. So with that lingering in the back of my head, it stopped me from progressing in life. And so when I learned about the book and how to affirm myself, I started researching the words that I was trying to affirm, because I always understood like in the back of my head that words have double meanings. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to affirm myself having a good morning because that is a good day of sorrow. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure that I was affirming the right words, because I knew subconsciously again that I was like programming myself the way that I wanted to actually feel.
Right. So you started to understand that words, like you say, have power. Michael, Liz, quick question. Do you know what etymology is?
No, I was just about to ask what is it?
Okay, Michael.
So
yeah, I have looked it up.
Okay. So you kind of know, or you do know, because
it's the evolution of the words before.
Love it. Evolution of the words before. That's a good summary, to be fair. Like, okay. So a little thing that I do with my grandparents when I go and visit them, we watch Countdown. Right, it's a show in the UK, guys. There's like, I think it might be in America as well, hosted by someone else. But basically, 9 letters on the board, and you got to like get the longest word you can using those letters. You can't use the same letter twice, all that. But there is a lady called, I think, Judy Dent there, or not Judy Dent, something like that. But anyway, she speaks about history of words, and she always highlights where sayings come from or what words mean and the evolution of it. Like, but she doesn't go into the depths of what Iyesis has, and this is why I've asked Iyesis on the show, because here at the Elite Thinking Club, we obviously critical think, and we've done episodes in the past on ruling elites, control agenda, you know, the conspiracies. And this, I believe, is also in alignment with that, because Iyesis, you have done a lot of looking into words behind, or the meanings behind brands, names, companies. And you've come up with you've found some really interesting coincidences, should I say?
Right. Coincidences.
You know what I mean? So can you go on a little bit about how and why you started digging into these companies and their names and some of the interesting things you found?
Okay, so like I mentioned, I grew up in a cult, and I was around a lot of child abusers, and I found out that later in life. So I don't want to say the P word, but if you know what I mean, it's not just mentally, but it was physically as well. So when I got out of the religion, I'm very sensitive to that topic because I was surrounded by that as a child. So when I seen Balenciaga's campaign with the child, with the kids and the satanic stuff in the background, that like really bothered me. So then that's when the accession kicks in, because I kind of like connected the two. Like it was one separate experience in my life, and then I kind of attached myself to that as well. And so I was, once you start looking at the topic once, a bunch of things pop up in your newsfeed, and what actually came up was someone typing in Balenciaga into Latin to English, and it translated to ball is king. Yeah, so that's where it kind of like spiraled out of control for me, because I literally would say that I seen that video at like 10 o'clock at night, and I stayed up to 7 o'clock the next day looking up every major company's name, and it was like 100 of them. I went through a list of 100 of all the richest companies in the world, not just in the United States, but I looked at the world, and a lot of them has some interesting names, like phrases, things that you have to like question yourself, like, what does that actually mean? And then some of the things were nice. Like, I think one of the last ones that I posted, it was like, make love peace or something like that. So they weren't all like wicked, but they definitely all had double meanings.
Yeah, because you highlighted Balenciaga there. And to be honest, I didn't hear about this or know about this. Liz actually and Michael, you know, they said to me we should do an episode about this. We haven't got round to it because as times change, you know how like it is what's relevant at the time, keeping it to the time, but we had other things to talk about. But you also brought up Nickelodeon. Now, I used to watch Nickelodeon religiously growing up as a child. It was my number one go-to, that and Cartoon Network. So I was, you know, flicking between the two channels. But I didn't know the, if you will, Latin meaning of Nickelodeon. And I don't know if you can remember from your video, because I imagine you've looked at thousands of words by now. But do you remember what Nickelodeon meant?
So that was another one that came down my TikTok. That was not something that I looked at on my own. So I seen the Balenciaga first, and then the Nickelodeon second, and then my brain just like went through that, because if you look at my actual list, it's just the companies. The Balenciaga and the Nickelodeon doesn't even match that list, because I never even got to the point where I was looking up TV networks or clothing brands when I did the first video. I was just looking at major companies.
Yes. So, you know, we were highlighting companies, which obviously, when I say obviously, it's not obviously, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if it was obvious, because everyone would know, right? But there is obviously, I say obviously, you got to stop saying that. There is a coincidence occurring. Companies that are making billions. I did a video. I stitched a young lady that mentioned how we could be subliminally or subconsciously contributing to the growth of these companies because we're buying their stuff. But are we actually participating in the momentum behind the rituals, the satanic rituals? So we've mentioned religion, we've mentioned brands, we mentioned companies. Let's imagine if you are obviously religious and you're not materialistic, because, you know, it's hard to explain materialism because we're all in essence like stuff. We all like stuff, but it's say you're brand orientated, but are you actually brand orientated because it's something that the brand stands for? Like, let's say a really, really powerful brand, the North Face. The North Face, not many people know, but their name, the North Face, is obviously because of the North Face of Mount Everest is the hardest steep to climb. So they build clothing brand that is like very good quality. It's going to keep you alive should you choose to climb Everest. Not that everyone does, but you can back the brand because you understand the name and you know that. But a lot of people don't. They just sort of follow trends. Let's just say the brand is Balenciaga. People just buy it because it's like a thing. It's like, oh yeah, everyone else is doing it or everyone else has got it. You're not no one unless you own it. But they don't know the meaning behind the name. And therefore, having a mass of people supporting this word, you are carrying the momentum. You are building the energy behind it. You know, like we previously spoke, I don't believe that we're anything just blood and flesh. I know we're consciousness, and I know within our consciousness there is spirit, and within spirit isn't just us. And that's why I always say we're not here on our own, we're not here alone. And I'm going to bring it on to what we're talking about later in the episode, on something that you have said, Iyesis, which I loved, by the way. And this is a spiritual war. This war cannot be won with guns. We'll go into it in a bit. Right. So yeah. Also Adidas. I've got Adidas trainers. You know what I mean? And then you broke that down in Latin, and I forget what it said. Oh, I forget what it said. But anyway, guys, if you're watching
I forget what they all say, to be honest.
If you guys are watching now, definitely watch the video that I'm going to put the link to in the description on this episode for Iyesis, and you can check her out on TikTok because I'll add her link to that on the description as well. And if you haven't done so already and you've watched this far, you may as well hit that like button and may as well hit the subscribe button, because obviously you're very interested in what we're doing here at the Elite Thinking Club.
See, that's why, sorry, I find it really... Oh, sorry. I find it really interesting that you went and researched the words and you got them broken down into Latin, because going back to what I said about words as spells and, you know, what we say and things like that, they all have meaning. Latin was from a very long time ago, and that's a time where they used to write down a lot of spells and things in Latin. So it's strange that the words in Latin, like some of them you said were quite sinister, and how it came out, and there were a few that were nice. That fascinates me, because that goes back to how my thought process about words, and yeah, just how the Latin meaning, it's freaky, actually.
And it's creepier than that, because if you spell it forward and backwards, it says different words.
That's what I mean. So that's where I'm like, words are spells. And like when you watch films from years and years ago that are like set in like Latin times, let's say, there's always like sort of witchcraft, or people, you know, going to these, like what we probably have today as holistic people, but in these films they're deemed as like strange, you know, whatever. And they, you know, they go to them and they're like asking for spells or asking for what's the word, like what's the word when they kind of get somebody like condemned or whatever, where they cast not a spell, I can't think of the word.
A curse?
That's it, yes. So the words can be a spell or a curse. So and when you look into, I watched a film that was talking about like Latin and stuff, and yeah, anyway, I'm going way off on a tangent like I always do.
It's fine.
I know what I mean and I know what I'm saying, sorry, but basically, yes, I find it deeply interesting that you researched it and all the different strange meanings in Latin from the words that we use today, all these names, and you wonder why they're named or what it means. And people probably think that Balenciaga is the last name of the person, the CEO that created the company. Right. But actually, when you look into it, you realize it means something strange.
But the number 2, his name is Crystal Ball Balenciaga.
Whoa.
And people were defending it, and I was like, do you realize it's spelled differently, but his name is Crystal Ball.
Whoa. It blows my mind.
Exactly.
Because it makes me think, are we looking into it too much, or is it right in front of us and so obvious that these names, these words, these you know, when you break it down in Latin, is it actually right in front of us, but we've just lost our way of seeing it, sort of thing?
One of the most highlighted things here, and shout out to some of the viewers as well, Charlie, Blast for Life, I see you, Shah, and I see you guys, right? Yes, Iron Lung. A lot of people don't know this, but in music, you can actually reverse play tracks. And obviously we understand the concept of time as in linear line from one spot to another spot, A to B. And, you know, we travel that way. But there is obviously, in the grander scheme of things, spiritually, no such thing as time. It is a concept that we have here on earth just to help us all kind of sing off the same song sheet, but it doesn't truly exist. One thing you said there, Iyesis, that really sparked my interest was how you can read a word backwards, which they do, or they have done in the past, which then obviously highlights why some scriptures are actually written from right to left rather than left to right, because who decides that it should be read that way? Who, you know, it's very, very, if you will, Roman Catholic Church, you know, they'll beat a child for writing with their left hand because that's the devil's hand, apparently. But I'm left-handed. And I don't see any. I'm not the devil. Do you know what I mean? Far from it, I think.
How do you know? Right, let's Google Jules's name and find out what he means in Latin.
Well, I can tell you what my true name is Christopher.
I know.
And I know that is Christ bearer. So I'm quite happy there. Unless, of course, Iyesis, you're gonna look into it and tell me no, it ain't Chris, it means something else.
No, I'm gonna let you live on your high. It's okay.
Thank you.
If you separate JU from LES, it comes up they read.
They read. Oh, okay. I have to start reading. I do read. Okay. Read between the lines.
So if you move the letters around, it comes up with different things. Like it's just sometimes it's not even just like one statement. It would be like 3 or 4.
It is very, very interesting.
You are Jules.
I think mine's good because mine's biblical. So, and regal, I'm hoping.
I'd like to know what Iyesis means. Because I've got a traditional name, Christopher. Elizabeth, you're traditional. Michael, you're traditional. But Iyesis.
Oh yeah, put my name in there. It's gonna be entertaining.
Oh God, what have we set ourselves up for this evening, guys?
Elizabeth.
I love it, and that's what I love about the Elite Thinking Club. Quick one, guys. Iyesis, you obviously spoke about being part of a cult, but my question to Michael and Liz is, because I think I know, but I've known you guys a while, but I'll ask you again. Are you guys religious people?
No,
I'm more, I would say, spiritual than religious.
Yeah. Michael?
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
No. And Iyesis? Yeah? More like Liz?
Yes, spiritual.
Spiritual. I started looking into Islam the other day, and because obviously you guys know me, I always explore stuff, but I was delving into life and death. I was looking into reincarnation, and someone mentioned that you should study Islam. So I thought, you know what? I think I will. So I took a little trip, had a little stroll, and listened to a few things. And I was just thinking, maybe that does make sense. Maybe that is what it is. The only reason why I ask is simply because, and to the you viewers as well, like, are you guys religious? Do you believe in, do you follow your life by a guideline, if you will? It's because the word brainwashing comes to mind sometimes. You'll find some people so adamant about their religion that they don't even question it. They don't even really, like, for example, I have dreadlocks, but I know it's been adopted by the Rastafari, right? But these have been around since the dawn of man. We're supposed to grow our hair, right? I am vegan, right? But I don't class it as a religion, but it's just a choice. And I also see myself as open enough to... Is that your dog making that noise, Liz?
Yeah, sorry.
That's a weird noise for a dog, but I've never heard that before. But I also see, like, for example, I could be wrong. So it's worth exploring. But the reason why I say the word brainwashing is I have met some very hard to show people alternative thoughts. It's beyond them. Or not beyond them. Beneath them.
Open to it.
Yeah. Which brings me on to what Iyesis mentioned about, being part of a cult, noticing things that doesn't align with your core values and self, and brainwashing. So when it comes to this etymology, do you think, when we're talking about words have power, that some people have unknowingly become not enslaved or transformed? They've become hypnotized. They are now under the spell.
Spell.
Yeah. I definitely think people are still are under a spell and currently under a spell. It's just what's marketed to us. And I think that the elite. What is that saying, that the billionaire studies astrology and the millionaire studies whatever? But the point is, the billionaires are studying astrology because they understand the energies of the world. And I did some college study in marketing, and they tell you how to manipulate people, what colors to use, where to place things so you can get people's attention. So I can imagine just with that small knowledge, what they're doing, when you have access to money like that, where you can really manipulate people on a grand scale, not just like switching the colors from the buy button from red to blue, you know.
Yeah, even go on, Liz. Sorry.
It's very powerful words, and I know I probably sounded a bit crazy what I was saying earlier because I was going off on tangent. But the reason why I referred to it as spells is because, just like what you said, it's used in advertising, it's used in education. Words are used and they do hypnotize people. They also condition people. So if you look at like how our media uses words when they tell a story, they use certain words which they know will make people feel fearful. They will use certain words where they know it will make people, it might change people's mind on something, or they can manipulate an opinion of a certain person the story is about, purely based on the words that they are speaking and casting onto the people that are watching. And you know, like where you said about the colors as well. So in like you said that as well, these millionaires, billionaires have done studies, psychological studies on how to manipulate consumers and basically normal, ordinary people like ourselves. So when you go to the cinema and you watch adverts and you're watching films, they can actually put realize you're seeing it. You won't even realize that you've seen these images, but they've been planted in your brain. And yeah, it's and then, you know, it just it does hypnotize us, or it's planted the seed in our brain. So I do think it's very powerful, words and images. So
yeah,
no,
totally.
even to add on to that with the images, and I apologize if I cut you off, but there's even with it's just common within the United States of how Black people are treated differently. So within the marketing, we see in the past, we used to see a lot of Black women with straight hair. And over time, that has migrated to Black women wearing their natural hair because the marketing was more pushed to look more white adjacent. So but because people have been standing up and saying like, no, I'm going to accept my natural beauty, then the marketing has changed. But because that marketing was so heavy on one standard of beauty, and it caused a whole generation to chemically damage their hair, to waste thousands of dollars on buying someone else's hair when our hair grows from our head. It's just different than yours.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Even understanding things so deep as your vocal cords. I've had people compliment, say your vocal, I love the way you talk, I love the sound of your voice. That's because I've inherited it from DNA. And I've got a friend called Fa, and he can sing. I'm telling you, like, it's not even like, oh yeah, he sounds good. Nah, it raises the hairs on your skin. It's like on your body. It's like the thin line between like good and bad, you know, when not even good and bad, but you know, I hope you know what I'm talking about. You know, the early morning and the sunrise and the late sunset, that 30-minute window that you're just hypnotized. You can't even explain it. It's so beautiful, you might nearly tear up, you know. There are things in this world that is such of nature that you just think, wow. And you know, genetics wise, we all have so many traits that we've inherited from our DNA, and it all traces back obviously to the source, and it shouldn't be overlooked. But when it comes to brainwashing the masses, I believe that there is a desperate need now for them, and I say them, those who are trying to control the masses. They are pushed, like it's almost like an act of desperation, like they are trying to pull every single trick in the book, because I believe we're waking up. I truly do. I seriously do. I feel like a lot of us right now are really tuning into who we are and what we are, where we've come from, and what our purpose is, like our true purpose here, not buying into the brainwashing that was done so long ago by Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, generations before, you know, on EastEnders or whatever. You know how they have all kind of, because they're all under the same sort of employer, aren't they? Like 95% of newspapers is owned by one company or stuff like that. You know, they're all the same.
It is rather crazy how words can get into people's minds, and they can believe it means one thing, or that, you know, it's like when the whole pandemic was going on, and they were using the words in sort of you know, signs in the shops, or even you know, in the media. They were saying things like, oh, it's now mandatory to do this. Mandatory is not law. Mandatory is a request. It's a request. It's asking you if you would consent to doing something. You have every right to say no thank you, but people hear mandatory and they think it's a must do. You must do it. And it's the same as, I would often see the word, we encourage our customers. Encourage is just, again, a request. It's asking you. They're saying, we encourage you to, but we can't make you, you know. And it's like the amount of people that I debated with about these words in the past 3 years, where they were like, yeah, but it's mandatory, so that means we have to. No, actually, Google mandatory, read what it says, and read the definition of it. And that
the government takes advantage of that too. They take advantage of our ignorance and terminology. Absolutely. And that's how they make us pay for taxes and stuff like that. Because they like in the United States, they use the word person, but it's not, we're not considered persons, we're citizens, but they almost have the paperwork set up that we're actual like cattle, like we're slaves. So but until we actually attack really understand the words, we're always going to be in the system of us having to work to support ourselves instead of like a more community system.
Exactly. And that is one of the biggest issues about the words that we use and the terminology. That's 100%. When we get letters, people get letters and they see certain words, like if people get parking fines or, you know, legal letters, because they don't understand the terminology, half of the time they believe that what they've just read is they have to stand by that, they have to do as it says. If they actually understood the terminology of what they've read and what's been written to them, they wouldn't actually, if they could reply with the same terminology, half these things would get squashed. But it's because we don't know the terminology. Well, some people do, but you know, the powers that be. But if we all learned that terminology, we would free ourselves from a lot of the systems that are in place.
So shout out to everyone on TikTok and all of the content creators like Iyesis, because we are literally trying to self-empower. I believe the key and the answer is education. Where before a lot of knowledge and power of education has been withheld from us, obviously now we are part of a community who is sharing. Share. And I want to also say, don't ever feel like you're not good enough or you don't know what you know. Trust me, if you could meet your younger self right now, right, just imagine, you most likely could teach them a thing or two.
Gotcha.
Now, there is a generation younger than you, and there is a version of you younger than probably right now, that needs to hear what you have to say. So let's just highlight that fact and honestly be your true authentic self, because you never know who you're going to inspire. And even if what you're saying might look like the person you're saying it to is fluoride stare, completely oblivious to what you're saying, never underestimate the power of planting a seed. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's gonna have its impact, and we need to, like what I was gonna come on to. But before I come on to what I mentioned earlier, how it's spiritual warfare, Michael, you've been very silent, and I know you're just like listening intently, because you do that a lot, and I like that, and you've probably got something to say. But yeah, everything that Liz and Iyesis just said there, definitely, you girls, ladies, highlighted a lot. What are your thoughts on Hollywood? Firstly, Michael, then Liz, then Iyesis.
Well, before that, sorry. So you said what you would say to your younger self. Would you actually say anything to your younger self?
Oh yeah, 1,000,000,000%.
Would you, Liz?
Yeah.
Would you, Aisha?
No.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't either.
Oh, well then don't then. Right, back to my question.
You change the course of your life.
Michael does this. Michael will sit quietly and intently listening, and then he drops these bombs and these one-liners. He does it every time.
Michael, I do love you, yeah. I do love you. It's like, okay, cool. You wouldn't, I would. Now, what are your thoughts on Hollywood?
But that's not the end of it, is it? Because if you could talk to yourself,
yes,
you would change your life.
Yeah, you would. I get what you're saying.
It's like the butterfly effect.
But that is the whole point, Michael. That is my point exactly. Because
then wouldn't we be in a higher place if we were better?
This is what I'm saying. You would change your life.
Further along.
Would you? Because you might think
either locked up in prison or you
might think you'd change it for the better, but that small little thing could send you off. Like if you told yourself not to join the army and then you went and did something else, you could have got hit by a car.
Right.
So
very morbid.
I do love him. I can't lie. Michael, he's something. Right. Okay. I'm gonna ask Liz, then Iyesis, and then I'm gonna ask you, Michael. Like, Liz, what are your thoughts on Hollywood?
Okay. My thoughts on Hollywood. My younger self thought it was glitz and glam, very artistic, entertaining and art, basically. As an adult now, and having sort of done a bit of filming and seen how things are, my view is that it's propaganda, that it's not what I thought it was, and actually it is a bit of a cult.
Okay. Iyesis, what are your thoughts on Hollywood?
I would say in the past, I was taught to believe that it was demonic. So I always came from that perspective. So when I separated myself from that and I just looked at everything, everything I was told not to look at. And I don't think it's demonic. I think it's just mass manipulation.
Yeah.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
Well said. Michael, sorry. I know what you just said was very important to you. And I know that it actually had a lot of truth behind it. So I'm backing you, bro. I get it. Butterfly effect. I know what you meant. But what are your thoughts on Hollywood?
So it's like most things in media. It is, to me, it's like it hides a lot of stuff. So while you're looking at this film, that film, this TV, it takes your mind off what's actually happening in the world.
Distraction.
Yeah. So Hollywood to me is a distraction technique.
Yeah. I believe Hollywood is definitely motivated by an agenda. I don't know whose agenda it is, but it's very, very like what the word I'm looking for is they pick and choose what gets mass attention. We have a lot of film directors. We have a lot of actors in this world, and only Hollywood choose what they want on the screens, don't they? And it's almost like you could be the best actor in the world, but if you don't fit what they're trying to push, you just won't get seen. And I also believe that, certain people, like you said at the start, Liz, but you snapped out of it, are so hypnotized by the glitz and the glamour and the fame and the glory and they all of that they're willing to give up everything for it.
Yeah,
quite literally everything, not just like time and money and all of that. I'm talking everything, like soul, spirit. They will lose themselves, which
that's why a lot of them are troubled and on drugs and alcohol and in rehab and die young. It's quite tragic, actually. It's like a machine that spits them out.
Yeah. And then that brings me on to what I highlighted earlier. One of the biggest things that I took from you, Iyesis, was the words you used in your video was, this is deeper than surface level. This is spiritual warfare. This here cannot be won with guns. This is not, you cannot stand up and fight physically with what we're up against. Words have power. Everything we've highlighted, etymology, the brainwashing, the influence of words, the way that we say them forwards or backwards, whether words are spells or whether the intent behind them, and then obviously some of the things that are in play that subliminally plant these seeds. Why is it important that we understand this is spiritual warfare?
Because it takes it back to the energy. You know, I think we can control whatever is going on if we're conscious that we are spirits, like you were talking about before, about consciousness, about spirits, like we're spirits inhabiting a body, and not being afraid to fight a battle and lose, because I believe in reincarnation. Like, we're going to keep coming back, and our spirit and energy is never lost. You know, it's always here. It just gets transformed into different spaces. So when I think of everything being spiritual, I want to just like, I want you to dig deeper and look at it from a more nuanced perspective. Or I think people are very one-sided with the way that they view life or view spirituality, but there's so many things that we just cannot, you know, comprehend. Like, they have ghost shows regularly on here, like on the Discovery Channel. Like, all right, you don't believe in God, but how do you explain that falling off the wall, or the door closing, or the banging on that? Like, something is causing that energy. So whether you like to acknowledge it or not, you know, we are spirit creatures. You know, now where do we go when we die? You know, everyone has their own opinion. But when I see stuff like that, I see them believing those things as well. And the propaganda that they have given us, that saying like God doesn't exist, you know, they use that a lot with higher education people. Just because you're educated doesn't mean you're intelligent. And I feel like when people go to school and they learn these special skills in regards to mathematics and science, you know, they'll comment under my thing like, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. I have a degree, a master's degree. And I said, I actually feel like that makes you more ignorant, because you're only allowed yourself to look at this one educated perspective according to whatever degree that you decided to get. And I'm thankful for myself that I didn't push myself to do those degrees and seek those higher educations, because I'm allowed to look at stuff from a nuanced perspective. Not saying I couldn't do those things, because I'm definitely a very intelligent individual. But in regards to following things by the book and doing something because someone told me to do it that way, my brain doesn't focus like that. But I do see the manipulation in regards to everything, in regards to our education system, the political system, and our religious system. Like, I think they're all connected. I don't think it's just like, oh, well, we just have a problem with Balenciaga. Like, no, it's a whole thing. And my brain, and this is where the obsession comes in, because my brain like connected different chords. Like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And because I was obsessive when I was younger about studying the Bible, I really see how the Bible connects to astrology. And then the Bible connects to when I'm spelling things forward and backwards. I'm like, well, that's a scripture. And because I've studied those things, and then I realized, oh, they know we're spirit creatures. We just don't know we're spirit creatures. And so, like we said, we're trying to figure out who we are right now.
Yes. Because we've been so dumbed down and conditioned, and we've not used the energy that we hold, because we're unaware of it. If we were aware of it, we would be able to be more in touch with our consciousness. We would be able to be higher than we are. And, you know, I believe that that's why there's a lot of, we spoke about this before on ETC, there's a lot of sort of depression and mental health issues, because I think people are searching and they're like, what's this all about? What's this all about? And they know that there's a reason why, but they can't figure it out. And I think that really affects people, because we are energy, and we are supposed to feel and be more conscious and higher. And I like what you said about the education. Like, just because you have a degree doesn't mean you're intelligent, and it's very true. Yeah, not about yourself as well. How you said that you study things and you can't just follow things and be part of the system. That's because your mind isn't easily programmable, and that's a great thing, because that means you've broken out of the system.
And imagine being in but imagine being in a cult. It's so extreme, because it's not just, oh, this is my religion. I don't know if he's told y'all guys, but I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. So a lot of people just know them from knocking at the door, and they pretty have like a A1 for the most part, reputation with people. People don't really talk bad about them beyond the blood issue. But if you actually dig deeper into the religion, you see that they set up a ring where pedophilia can thrive, you know, where child abuse happens on a regular basis, where suicide happens, where shunning, where your whole family stops speaking to you. People get so wrapped up into the ideology of the words that they express to them, for the titles that they give. They get so wrapped up in their brain that they can't see that none of this is real. You know, what they're saying to us is a lie, that the promises that they had made about the world is supposed to end and we're supposed to be in this new world by a certain time period never came to be. And I look at my family and I'm like, wow, they're still in this religion. And I'm trying to explain it to them. And then there's something that's just not registering. And I realized when you have control over people's thoughts and control over their afterlife and where they see themselves when they die, you have total power over them. So an unsensible thing for you to say would be like, oh, I want you to stop talking to your daughter if you don't buy this car, or if you get rid of this car, I'm going to tell you to stop talking to your daughter. You can never talk to your daughter again. Well, that's crazy, right? But in this religion, if you leave the religion, my family can never speak to me again, you know, because of the words that they use to manipulate, to make you believe that you're doing this for God when you're really just doing it for the organization. So I spent my entire life in that setting. So when I was able to break free, I seen everything. I'm like, oh, it's not just this religion, it's all religions. It's politics. And it's the TV.
Yeah.
Some of these scriptures are so powerful.
I think it's
I still struggle. Yeah, I still struggle to understand how some people would choose an entity that they've never seen. You know, never even, you know, there's no proof of what you're talking about to even exist. Like, according to your scriptures. However, your child is physically there. That came out of your womb. That came out of you. You created that. Yet you're willing to give that up for something you've never seen, never, you know, never had cry on, you know, or need you, or be there to love you, or, you know.
That's the power of words.
That's the power of it.
But it's also the power of fear and hope.
Yeah.
Because they're hoping, and they're hoping that by following it, they've got something good after, and they fear if they don't follow it, they can't have that after.
Yeah. But as human
also
beings,
group mentality. Group mentality is very strong.
Yeah.
We're led by two main emotions, and that is fear and love.
Yeah, I'm stuck there because
and also I think it's really scary that we are being taught how to think. You know, and what to think, when we should, our minds are powerful things. We should be able to critically think. We should be able to ask the most craziest, weirdest, randomest questions ever. You know, when kids sit there and they're like, who invented the sun? Or, you know, why does the moon come out at night? And it's like, it fascinates me because children don't, when they're asking certain questions at those sort of ages, young ages, their minds are probably at their best, like, because they are literally critically thinking. But then when they go into the education system, it's like, well, this is the solar system and this is how this works. And it's like, they're then taught, well, that's how you think about it. We've just told you what you need to think about it. That's all you need to know. And it's like, no, actually, because what if I want to look a bit more into that, or I actually don't believe what you said? But we just get programmed into thinking, oh, that's that. Yeah. And I think that's quite terrifying, that moving forward as a society, we need to think for ourselves.
Yeah, it makes me think of that scripture where Jesus says, be like a little child, you know, and I think of that more so as like, okay, kids ask questions like, why is the sun hot? You know, these are valid questions. We just don't have the answer to them, so we hush them. And I find that on the internet, when people don't understand what I'm posting, they'll say to me, I'm stupid, I'm crazy, I'm uneducated. And I make sure I affirm myself. I'm like, no, I'm intelligent, I'm a genius. You just can't comprehend. Like, you know, it's not, you're not comprehending what I'm saying. So therefore you labeled me as ignorant. And it's not a me issue, it's a you issue. How about you ask a follow-up question? But we're not taught to do that as adults.
Well, I'm very proud of you, Iyesis, for breaking free from a cult. That is very hard to do.
Amazing.
You know, to be that one that, you know,
stands up, speaks up.
It's like that social experiment with the, I think it's crabs in a barrel. They all, if one tries to escape, the rest of the crabs pull them in. It's very, very hard to break free from, from other people's insecurities, you know. It's hard for them to, they admire you, you know, they're inspired by you, and they see in you a version of themselves that they want to be, but there is something that they can't explain holding them back. And I think Michael did nail it when he said hope and fear, which was very powerful. And Liz, you're absolutely right. Indoctrinated youth, shaped into what serve the higher masses, and that's influenced by films, by literature, by education, by brands, by Nickelodeon. Not just shouting Nickelodeon out because we mentioned it earlier, but yeah, there is a lot to be blocking, like Neo from the Matrix. Once you can see it for what it is, you are literally impenetrable. You can't
unsee it. You can't unsee it.
You just block everything as it comes. But until you can break free, until you are able to waken, until you are able to wake, I suppose you are still part of the system. It is very hard. You will defend it. The people that you come across in the comments, Iyesis, they are still part of the system that they are just innocently defending, because you are challenging something that is probably deep-seated conviction in their stability and their well-being. But you're absolutely right. If I came across an egotistic person who's like, I'm educated in this field because I've studied this, and I have a high level degree, then I would say, yes, I will listen to you on that specific subject because you know far more than I do. However, you are not knowing about everything and anything. So therefore, when someone like Iyesis is speaking up about etymology, I think you should definitely pipe down, and you should definitely open your ears, because you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Yeah.
I think I hate when people question me, because I'm like, do you understand my Virgo? And I overstudied this before I like put my voice attached to it, and I posted on a page with my actual name. Like, I triple check this and I triple study it. And then when I do find something that I did wrong, like, I die inside. So like, I want to make sure that what I post online, I really truly believe it. Because if I don't, then it wouldn't be on my page.
Yes, I love that. And I am going to put the link to all of Iyesis' links on the description. Shout outs to all the viewers right now. Honestly, some of these guys have been commenting away on the TikTok watching, and you've got someone's name's Midlife Crisis, Iyesis, but they're saying they 100% love this girl. So yes, thanks for the shout out. Yeah, guys, and it is getting on. Bernadette, I see you going in the corner. It's late, yo. Yeah, well, what else are you going to do? If you want to go sleep, go sleep. But if you're wanting to watch this at a later date, of course you can. We are on the YouTube. And if you haven't done so already and you've watched the episode to this point and you still haven't done it, you know what to do. You know how to do it. Hit the like and hit the subscribe button, because you clearly love what we're all about here at the ETC, which is critical thinking. Now, we are coming to the end of this episode, but this last thing I saved till last. And it's because, you know, it's another rabbit hole within itself. So Iyesis, actually, no. Liz, Michael, do you know what Wolfsbane is?
No. Yes, I've heard of this. No, I can't remember, but I have heard of it.
You've heard of it, Michael?
Yeah. Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Wolfsbane is a type of flower. It's a type of flower, and I am not the expert here, and I have just looked into it because obviously I studied Iyesis before I came here. I was watching a lot of her TikToks. But Iyesis, would you mind just highlighting when you came across Wolfsbane and this reference to wolves? appears quite frequently in a lot of what you found.
Yeah. So, well, the reference to wolves, the first one that I seen was Manulife. It said, I forgot what the phrase was, but it was like something that implied that the wolf, that you're a prey to a wolf or something like that. And it was actually like a quoted text. And then in regards to Wolfsbane is actually a plant that they use to make this ingredient called econium. And econium they put into cough medicine, and it was something that was recommended to take when you had contracted COVID. But when you put inoculation and from Latin to English, it comes up as I don't know if you remember specifically, but it made me go back 3 times where the name changed, and it eventually changed to aconitum. And then so when I put aconitum in, it looked it up. It said it was wolfbane plant, and the wolfbane plant is actually poisonous. It's toxic, and it's also connected to magic and casting spells. And they said they put that oil on there to make the brooms fly for witches. So it was like, it had actual reference to it actually being poisonous to us. Then it had references to it being magical, and then it had references being into an ingredient that they use to treat COVID.
Yes. And why is that important? And I suppose it's important because, just so you guys are aware, this is tracing back all the way to the point where we were very aware of plants because we weren't so overly stimulated by digital technology. We weren't constantly consumed by television or mobile phones, or even just, going to school all the time. We were homeschooled, and we can't, like I say, we can't, it's a choice. All I'm highlighting here is that rabbit hole alone, all right, if you'd known the history behind that plant, you may, start to learn history behind other plants, other medicines, other ways of being that you're not so easily manipulated and falling into it. But yeah, look into Wolfsbane. Then the final thing, right?
Can I just say one thing about flowers?
Yeah. Go
on. Just a little positive spin, because that flower sounds a little bit dodgy and poisonous. Dandelions are not weeds. Dandelions are medicinal. So don't pick them and throw them away. Pick them and make potions or eat them.
I put them in my green smoothies in the morning.
So do I. Oh, I love that. She knows.
I love it. Michael, Liz, have you heard of the 33rd line?
No.
Me neither. It is so new to me, and it shocked me when Iyesis said this. Iyesis, would you mind explaining what the 33rd line is, please?
So you mentioned before that you kept getting people that were from the same area, and there's a reason to that. So the 33rd line is the longitudinal line. So that's the one that goes west to east, or east to west. And then the longitudinal goes north to south. So there's a 33rd line north to south and a 33rd line east to west. And on that 33rd line east to west, there's the pyramids, there's Atlanta, there's Houston, Los Angeles. And then from north to south, there's New York City, and then some more pyramids that connect in South America.
Now, do you believe that? Sorry, go on.
No, so on that line is a special energy field, because the pyramids, you took advantage of that. We know that they had some type of energy attached to them, and the same with the pyramids in South America. They all had energy. So all the people are attracting to the same area, or their companies are taking advantage of the energy here and marketing this area to us.
Yes. Well, it's interesting.
I need to look into this.
Yeah, definitely.
No idea.
That is what we're all about here. We're exploring and hearing about this 33rd line. I'm 100% going to look into it, because I understand in ley lines, there are ley lines that have electromagnetic energy flowing through them. And there are quite a few here in the UK. And there's a guy called Steve the Wanderer on YouTube that actually traces a lot of the buildings that have been built along these ley lines. And there is like, when he shows it, it's like it's hidden in plain sight. It is so obvious that is there for a reason. There's a totem pole in one of them, just there in the middle of a shopping center, and everyone's just you know, so distracted by shops and, you know, like I said before, digital screens and the way that we live now, you wouldn't even notice the totem pole. You're just completely obliviously just thinking, yeah, it's just a pole. You know what I mean? In the high street, you even know you're walking through a ley line right now. Like, we should be dancing around this pole. Do you know what I mean? We should be flipping, humming and, you know, generating energy. Like, you ever seen the film Avatar? When they're all around the tree and they're all linking arms and they're all sort of like meditating and channeling energy. Basically, my point is there are ley lines all across the world. And, you know, the ancient Greeks knew about ley lines in Cyprus and Ibiza. You know, you hear about these places, a lot of people go there and they feel supercharged. They feel like they're at one. They feel like they're better and their, you know, their energies are balanced again. But I've not heard of the 33rd line. So I'm definitely going to do a little bit of research about that. And if it's all right with you, Iyesis, I'd like to invite you back later on down the line. Excuse that. But back on the show and we can look into
that would be wonderful.
I love that. Right. Iyesis, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been very insightful, and again, etymology is something we have not explored before here at the ETC. So thank you for sharing it with us and sharing it with our viewers. It really means a lot. You know what I mean?
Yes, thank you.
Liz, Michael, is there anything else you want to say on tonight's episode or share?
No.
We're good. Okay.
Yeah, all good. Although I do think my dog wants to like come on like here because it seems to keep making these weird noises. I just want to clarify to anybody watching, those noises are not coming from me. Okay.
No, Chris was the dog whisperer, so you know.
Yeah. I actually do think it's his voice. It's every time I come on, he's like boom on me, and then he's just going crazy. So I blame you, Chris.
Fair enough. Thank you. Iyesis, what are your final thoughts? What would you like to leave our audience with as your final thoughts?
I feel like there's no dumb questions. So whatever childlike question you have in the back of your head, just go and research it. That's just like step one.
Yes, I love it. And guys, if you want to check out more of Iyesis stuff, I'll put the link in the description like I've mentioned before. Click on it, go check her out, especially on TikTok. That she's done so many TikToks on playlists, you know, part 1, part 2, part 3. And it is really, really eye-opening because we have these two eyes to look with, but we have this third eye to see with, and it's very eye-opening. So yeah, I
question everything.
You're awesome. Well, I suppose yes, Murky, I see you. Shout outs to the viewers. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Maria, I see you, and yeah, thank you guys for being here. I suppose that is it. So Iyesis, again, thanks for joining us. It's so good, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future, joining us here on ETC.
Yes.
Yeah. So all the viewers, everyone watching at home, from me, Liz, Michael, and Iyesis, peace and love.
Bye.